Manu, third year PG scholar from Shalakanda Department, Pal Institute of Ayurveda, Parle University. We are welcoming you in the webinar series of Shalakitandra organized by TAS India in association with Department of Shalakitandra, Parle Institute of Ayurveda, Parle University. Through this webinar series, the clinical aspect in the Shalakitandra will be revealed by the pioneers of Shalakitandra. This will help the PG scholars and upcoming Shalakis to get knowledge about modern and Ayurveda aspect of Shalakitandra. And in continuation with it, today we have Dr. Riju Agarwal with the topic Refractive Errors and Ayurveda. Today's guest speaker, Dr. Riju Agarwal, he completed his BMS degree from ANJ Chibia College, New Delhi, and completed MS Shalakitandra from RGG PGA College, Rapola, Himachal Pradesh. He is presently working as HOD and Associate Professor Shalakitandra at Brahm Prakash Ayurveda Charak Santhan, New Delhi since 2013. Some of his clinical research works have been published in peer-reviewed index journals. He also presented numerous papers in national and international conferences. He also an elected member of Central Council of TAS India. He is currently the reviewer of GAIM and IRGP. I welcome you, sir. And now I request Dr. Riju, sir, to elaborate his views about the refractive errors and Ayurveda. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the introduction. And first of all, I would like to thank Parul University College of Ayurveda, Principal Sir, Parul University College of Ayurveda, Manjari ma'am, our President, TAS President, and Association of TAS for inviting me as a guest speaker. So, topic of discussion for today's lecture is refractive errors and Ayurveda. We will start from very basic and step by step we forward towards the basic concepts in Ayurveda. First of all, we should have a general idea about anatomy of eye, as some of the UG students even don't know about the basic anatomy. So here you can see the from posterior part to the posterior part of the cornea to the anterior part of the retina. The curvature is called AP diameter. AP diameter बोलते हैं इसको. And then there are two diameters which are very important in eye. First is AP diameter and then radius of curvature, ROC जिसको बोलते हैं, ROC, radius of curvature of different structure like cornea and lens. So ROC is more responsible for refractive power of the eye. Anteroposterior diameter is also responsible for refractive state of the eye, and 1 mm increase in anteroposterior diameter result into 3 mm 3 diopter refractive error, and 1 mm increase in ROC or radius of curvature, it create 6 diopter of refractive error. We discuss. And the what is emetropia? Emetropia is a state of refraction where the parallel rays of light coming from infinity are focused at the sensitive layer of retina with the accommodation being at rest. So this point is very important, accommodation being at rest, because whenever our accommodation, what is accommodation? Accommodation is a property through which our lens can change its refractive power. The property is called accommodation. So when the accommodation play a role in vision, we cannot see a normal vision. We cannot assess the normal vision because our body is trying, or our eye is trying to focus the image. So that is why accommodation being at rest is the first prerequisite for vision assessment. And for that, accommodation being at rest, or for that, what we should do, that we have to place a Snellen's chart at least 6 meters from the patient, because at 6 meters the rays are almost parallel. Parallel rays can only come from infinity, but at 6 meters the rays are almost parallel. So if what is emetropia? If a parallel rays of light coming from infinity are focused at the sensitive layer of retina with the accommodation being at rest, the condition is called emetropia, means the vision is normal. And what is emetropia? If there is a deviation from the emetropic side, or if there is a deviation or condition of refractive error, is called emetropia. So what is emetropia? It is defined as a state of refraction when the parallel rays of light coming from infinity with accommodation at rest are focused either in front of the retina or behind the sensitive layer retina in one. So what is emetropia? Emetropia is it is just a deviation from the normal visual status. Okay, if it is defined as the state of refraction when the parallel rays of light coming from infinity with accommodation at rest are focused either in front or behind the sensitive layer of retina in one or both the meridian. Okay, so the emmetropia includes myopia, hypermetropia, and astigmatism. So we will not go into the details of each and every refractive error. I just want to highlight what are the etiological classification of refractive errors. So there are total these 4 or 5 basic etiological classification. So first is axial. So it depends on the AP diameter. Axial means axial length of the eye, which we have already discussed. So AP diameter, if there is an increase in AP diameter, if it is increase in the AP diameter, it means the eye will be myopic. If there is decrease in the AP diameter, the eye will be hypermetropic. And curvatural myopia means there are 2 terms in curvatural myopia. One is curvature and one is radius of curvature. Curvatural myopia means increased curvature of the cornea or decreased curvature of the cornea. I have just taken this etiological classification of hypermetropia. That is why it is increased whenever there is an increased curvature of the cornea, lens, or both, or decrease in the curvature of the cornea. Curvatural myopia, if we discuss about if it is increased curvature of the cornea, lens, or both, then it is considered as curvatural defect or curvatural refractive error. Positional is produced by anteroposterior placement of the crystalline lens in the eye. What is the position of the lens? It is in the patellar fossa. If it deviates from its normal position, either if it deviates either anteriorly or posteriorly, it will give rise to some refractive error. Like if it placed anteriorly or if it is placed slightly anterior to its normal position, then there will be myopia. And if it is placed behind the normal position, it will result into hypermetropia. And what is index myopia? Index means there is a concept of refractive index. So different layers have different refractive index. Like our cornea have refractive index of 1.33 and our lens is having 1.39. So these are the different refractive index. So what is index? Refractive index when the light of rays deviate when it passes from one surface to another. The reason is because of the change in refractive index. So different index or different age group have different index of the lens, which ultimately can cause refractive error. I just want to highlight that the point number 1 and point number 2 are the most commonly found refractive errors. So I can say that out of 100, 85 or 90% of refractive error which we see in day-to-day life, either they are due to change in AP diameter or it may be due to change in the curvature. So we will discuss our Ayurvedic counterpart. I just finished with the allopathic part. So role of genetic is very important, especially in case of myopia. So genetic plays some role in biological variation of development of the eye. So development of the eye, what factor define the AP diameter? What factor define the curvature of the cornea? So it is genetic factor which plays a role in development of the eye. So if it is the prevalence of myopia is more in children with both parents myopic. The both parents are myopic, so there are 20% chances that their offspring will have a myopic defect. And if one parent is myopic, then there are 10% chances. And children with no parent myopic, it is 5% chances that there is development of the myopia in children. So, and also, apart from genetics, there is a theory of excessive near work in childhood. Means when we in our childhood age we used to play or roam around or do outdoor activities. We very less found in our home. We usually found it in the playground or something like that. And nowadays because of the COVID and all these circumstances and because of the addiction of the gadgets, what happened most of the time children are doing some near work, whether they are doing their online classes or they are doing some gaming, etc. So excessive near work also leads to the increase in incidence of the myopia. So in fact, there is no truth in that myopia is aggravated by close work, watching television, and not by using glasses. So let us come. We have basically have idea about the how the etiology of refractive error develop and how refractive error can be there. What is found in Ayurveda about the netra rachna or anatomy of the eye? Most of the points I think all the scholars or all the students have known, but just to highlight some of the points that I will talk about the AP diameter, that is bahulyam, and also talk about the swangosht sarvataha, and yani ki horizontal or vertical diameter. So the AP diameter is 2 angul and the horizontal or vertical diameter is 2.5 angul. And also in Ayurveda there is the concept of panchabhautik sanghatan of netra. So there is drishti concept. So what is drishti? Drishti is used differently in different places. Like sometimes drishti is used for physiological entity, sometimes it is used for anatomical entity, okay, and sometimes it is used for both. So what is drishti? Masur dal matram tu panchbhut prasadajam. It means it is like the cotyledon of the masur dal. Okay, and avritam patalen akshano bhayyen vivir akritam means the drishti or drishti mandal or the pupil is avritam patalen akshano bahye, means it is covered by the bahye patal. It means they have a knowledge about the drishti mandal is covered by bahye patal. Okay, we'll discuss about what is bahye patal and what is dvitiya patal. We'll discuss. Okay, so as far as the dimension of drishti is concerned, they have given that नेत्रायाम त्रिभागस्तु कृष्ण मंडलम उच्यते, एंड जो कृष्ण मंडल का सप्तमांश दृष्टि मंडल होता है, यानी कि आई बॉल का 1/3 इज कॉर्निया एंड 1/7 ऑफ कॉर्निया इज दृष्टि मंडल. एंड एक और कंसेप्ट सूत्र स्थान में उन्होंने दिया कि नवम तारकांशो दृष्टि, यानी तारका का 9th जो भाग है वो दृष्टि है. सो देयर इज अ डिफरेंस बिटवीन कृष्ण मंडल एंड तारका. तारका कैन बी कंसिडर्ड एज आइरिस which is having 1.5 mm more diameter than the corneal diameter, and that is why there is a difference in proportion of the it is 1/9 of the tarka, the drishti mandal, and 1/7 of the cornea. So there is a beautiful concept in Ayurveda that in spite of drishti is covered by bahya patal, so how we can see how the light travel in the eye, means there is a concept of that the bahya patal or the tejojalashrit patal is having transparent in nature. That is why it allows light rays or particle of the light to enter in the eye, and that is the this is beautifully explained by Acharya Dalhan. So in spite of drishti being covered with pratham patal, it allows to pass light particles through microscopic spaces in the pratham patal, and it is nothing but an indication of transparency of the cornea. So we will talk about, as you know, there are basically 3 tunics in the eye. First is the outer one is fibrous coat, the middle one is vascular coat, and the innermost is nervous coat. Okay, the fibrous coat is made up of cornea plus sclera. So we will restrict our talk to fibrous coat because the refractive error is very much close to the pratham patal, the tine. So as far as what is patal, patals are the tunics or the layers. Okay, so they have defined that द्वे वर्तम पटले विद्या चत्वारि अन्यानि चक्षणी जायते तिम्रम येषु व्याधि परम, means there are total 6 petal, out of which only 4 are in the akshi, or there are 4 petals are in the eyeball. Other 2 petals are they are bahye and they are called eyelids. So, what are the four petal in the eye which form the eye, or the layers of the eye are Tejo Jalashitam Bahyam. The Bahya word is very important here because this is the outermost layer or outermost covering. Tejo Jalashitam Bahyam Teshu Anyat Pishitashritam means the उसके अलावा क्या है मास आश्रित पिशिताश्रितम. The second petal is मास आश्रितम, third petal is मेद आश्रितम, and चतुर्थ petal is अस्थि आश्रितम. So, what is Pratham Patal? Uh, it is also called Tejo Jalashrit Patal. Sushrut have called it Tejo Jalashrit Patal. It is related to fire element and Jal element. This means that this layer is formed by predominance of fire and water element. Okay, so whenever there is a problem in this patal, fire represent Pitta and water represent Kapha. So there is a vitiation of Pitta and Kapha in this layer. If we want to basically correct the abnormalities or the diseases or the affections of this patal, so we will always have a keep this in mind that we should address the Pitta as well as Kapha dosh. So according to Dalhan, Pratham Patal is the seat of Rakt. The Sushruta have told that this is a seat of Tejo Jalashrit. It has an element of Pitta, fire, and water. But Dalhan have told that this is having Rakta predominance. Means he told that it is related to Rakt only or Pitta only. Rakt is a basically depend on the Pitta. And while Acharya Vagbhat, while describing the origin of the indriya or origin of the our sense organ, Acharya Vagbhat have told that the origin of the this sense organ is by the Kapha as well as Rakt Vah Srot. So both these srotas is responsible for origin of the sense organ. And in the eye, they have he told that Shwet part is formed by Kapha Vah Srotas. The Shwet part or the white part or the sclera, it is formed by Kapha Vah Srotas, which is a Pitraj Bhav. It give its genetic composition from the paternal side, and cornea by Raktaj, and it gets its genetic composition from maternal side. So we have already seen that the myopia or the length of the eyeball is determined by the genetic composition, and here also Acharya Vagbhat have told that there is a if we talk about only the Pratham Patal, there is an involvement of the Pitraj Bhav as well as Matraj Bhav. So Pratham Patal, when we talk about that it is Kapha Vah Srotas and Shwet part or Krishna Mandal or cornea, then we can conclude that this layer is nothing but the fibrous coat of the eye. And this fibrous coat, because of the length of the sclera as well as curvature of the cornea, is mainly responsible for anteroposterior diameter as well as the curvature of the eye. So that is why it is considered as sclera plus cornea. So there is a concept of Timir in Ayurveda. So what is Timir? Rogaha tadashayan goran shatcha chakshme patla anupravishtasya timirasya lakshana. Means there are 12 diseases which are there in the petals or which are present in the petals, and there is a disease. So what is Timir? Timir is a term which used to denote the diminution of vision. Okay, first we will talk about how the word Timir forms. Tim plus unadi suffix and is what is the literal meaning? The literal meaning of Timir is darkness. So whenever there is diminution of vision, then we call it as a Timir rog. Timir is one of the Drishtigat rog which cause vision disturbances. According to Acharya Sushruta, when vitiated dosh get lodged into first three patal, then bunch of symptom is known as Timir. And when they occupy the fourth patal, he specifically called it as Lingnash. Okay, so what is Timir? Timir is a disease which affect all the four petals, and Lingnash is also a variety of Timir Okay, so pratham patalga timir, dvitiya patalga timir, tritiya patalga timir, and when timir affect the fourth patal, then it is specifically called ling nash. And according to Acharya Bhagbhat, first when the first dosh get lodged in first two patal, then timir occurs, and when the doshas get lodged in third patal, then it is called kanch, and when it rests in fourth patal, then it is called lingnash. So pratham two patal, it is specifically called timir. In third patal, it is called kanch, and in fourth patal, it is called lingnash. So all the patals are affected by this different timirs. So we cannot say that timir affect only the pratham two patal, and it is a but is kach. Kach is also come under the broader topic that is called timir. The clinical feature of timir are based on decision of dosh and involvement of the patal. So Sushruta and Bhagat have categorization of doshas in predominance of pith dosha, which gets carried out through siras up to patals of drishti that leads to timir formation. So is it clear that what is timir? Timir is a group of diseases which can cause diminution of vision. Vision can be due to the corneal origin. Defective vision can be due to the lenticular origin. Defective vision can also be due to the retinal origin. Okay, so whatever disease which cause diminution of vision, it comes under a common category in Ayurveda called timir, and according to the affection of particular patal, it can be renamed as kach or lingnash. So timir starts from blurring of vision, avyakta darshan, and if it is left untreated, may lead to complete blindness or lingnash. Okay, so what is avyakta darshan? Avyakta darshan is nothing but blurred vision. Avyakta darshan is nothing but blurred vision. And when you see any patient with refractive error, if he is not using his glasses, then what is the symptom? What is the complaint of the patient? It is blurred vision. So only one symptom is described by Ayurvedic scholars in Pratham Patalga Timir, that is Avyakta darshan, and same is seen in different types of refractive error. As you know that avyaktani sarupani sarvani eva prakashyati, means the person will see blurred vision in every aspect. And what are the clinical features? For example, symptoms of hypermetropia. Hypermetropia, you just concentrate upon the point number 3 or point number 4. Defective vision is asthenopic symptom. Asthenopia is when our ocular muscles get tired, then the symptom arises like pain in eye, headache, watering. These are all called asthenopic symptom. And defective vision, here also you can see avyakta darshan is there. So what is sadhyata asadhyata? Means how is it curable or is it incurable? So Acharya Sushrut have told that aragi timiram sadhyam, means if there is no discoloration of the drishti mandal, then it is sadhya. Means if it affect the pratham patal, then it is sadhya. Or if it is dvitiya patal ashrit, and if it is discoloration of the drishti mandal is there, it is kechasadhya. And if it is if there is affection of the tritiya patal, then it is called yapya. And if involvement of the chatur patal except kafach lignash, all are asadhya. So what is kanch? Discoloration of the drishti mandal is called kanch. Rag praptasya cha timirasya kanch ki sangya, means whenever there is a discoloration of timir, it is called kanch. And if those lie in the fourth patal, the term is used as lingnash. So there are different treatment modalities in Ayurveda, but my personal view is that we should use these treatment modalities with the prescription of the glasses. Some clinician I have found that they totally depend on Ayurvedic treatment, and they don't prescribe glasses to the patient. In my view, it should be added. These treatment modalities should be added with the glasses. It will relax the ocular muscles, and it will and our drug will have a much better effect if we use with the glasses. Otherwise, there is a continuous ocular stressing or astigmatic feature in the patient, and ultimately the patient may left that Ayurvedic treatment. So if there is a two category, how we proceed or how we proceed with the treatment. If there is a discoloration of the drishti mandal, there is a different approach, and if it is there is no discoloration, it is having different approach. Okay, so if there is no discoloration, then we can do Rakta Mokshan. And the Puran Grit is very important, and or Mahatrifla Grit or Trifla Grit is very effective in these type of condition. We should always give Trifla Grit or Mahatrifla Grit empty stomach in the morning with the lukewarm water or with the Shmul Kath, and slowly it will have a wonderful result, and you will see that within a month or 2 months the patient you will found that there is a reduction in the refractive error of the patient. All are apathy, you very well know. But if it is if Timir is there is a discoloration of the drishti mandal, then venipuncture is strictly contraindicated. We can do Jaloka Charan, but we should not do venipuncture. So there are different treatment modalities found in different Timir Chikitsa. So, ma'am, if time permit, I will continue with the hypermetropia, or what you suggest? Now we will discuss about hypermetropia. So what is hypermetropia? Hypermetropia or long-sightedness is a refractive state of eye where parallel rays of light coming from infinity focus behind the retina with the accommodation being at rest. So here what happens, the image is formed behind the retina and posterior focal point is behind the retina, which receive a blurred image. Axial hypermetropia. In this condition, total refractive power of the eye is normal, but there is an axial shortening of the eyeball. So AP diameter is shortened in this condition, and about 1 mm shortening of the AP diameter result into 3 diopter of hypermetropia. And what is curvature? It is a condition in which the curvature of the cornea, lens, or both is flatter than the normal. So what we have not discussed there about the curvature. So curvature and ROC is inversely proportional. Okay, radius of curvature, if it is increased, the curvature decreases, and if ROC decreases, the curvature increases. So it is inversely proportional. So about 1 mm increase in radius, increase of radius of curvature will result into decrease in curvature. ठीक है, तो उसकी पावर कम हो जाएगी. 1 mm increase in radius of curvature result in 6 diopter of hypermetropia, and index occur due to decrease in refractive index of the lens in old age due to cortical sclerosis. It may also occur in diabetes after treatment. Positional hypermetropia result from posteriorly placed crystalline lens, and if there is absence, which is called aphakia, absence of lens from the optical axis, whether it is congenital or acquired, it leads to high hypermetropia or aphakia. The clinical types this is not so important, but the component of hypermetropia is very important because through this only you can diagnose the patient. Say there are basically two components, latent hypermetropia and manifest hypermetropia. So what is latent hypermetropia? Latent means it is hidden. Basically it is hidden. Implies the amount of hypermetropia, which is about 1 diopter. The maximum component of latent hypermetropia is 1 diopter, which is normally corrected by the inherent tone of the ciliary muscles. The ciliary muscles have its inherent tone, which contribute 1 diopter in the accommodation, and the degree of latent hypermetropia is high in children and gradually decreases with age. So if patient or young patient come in your OPD with the 6 by 6 vision, and there is a problem of problem in near vision, or whenever he or she used to study, there is a headache and pain in eyes, or some asthenopic feature. So you should always think about latent hypermetropia, and latent hypermetropia can be manifested with a test called fogging test. Okay, so latent we can convert latent into manifest, and then we can diagnose. Okay, and second is manifest hypermetropia. Manifest hypermetropia have two component: facultative and absolute. So facultative hypermetropia contribute 2 to 3 diopter of in the component of hypermetropia, and absolute, which is not corrected by any effort. So a maximum latent plus facultative hypermetropia can be corrected by our accommodative effort, and the rest which cannot be corrected is called absolute. And both the three forms, latent, facultative and absolute, contributes to the total hypermetropia. So what are the signs of the hypermetropia? Because there is a shortening of the eyeball, so every structure of the eye will be short. Size of the eyeball will be short, cornea will be short, anterior chamber is comparatively shallow. Retinoscopy and autorefractor reveals hypermetropic refractive error. Fundus examination reveals small optic disc, and it is shiny. When you see the fundus, it's a shiny appearance of the fundus picture. So it is confirmatory test for hypermetropia. Or A scan USG reveals shortness of AP diameter. Grading we can do, and we usually correct hypermetropia with plus glasses. If hypermetropia is not corrected for a long time, the complication may arises because of the repeated rubbing of the eyes. There may be recurrent styes, blepharitis, chelizion. These are the different complications due to uncorrected hypermetropia. Accommodated convergent squint may be developed in children due to excessive use of accommodation. Accommodative convergent squint means when there is excessive use of near vision, there is tendency of eyes to converge permanently, and it is called accommodative convergent squint. In myopia we found divergent squint. In hypermetropia we found convergent squint. And amblyopia may develop in some cases if there is a difference of refractive state in different eye. If it is more than 3 diopter or 4 diopter, then amblyopia may develop in some cases, and predisposition to develop because angle is shallow in this hypermetropia. So primary narrow angle glaucoma can be developed in hypermetropia. So we'll discuss about only the optical treatment. The spectacle we used to give are convex glasses and contact lenses we can use in hypermetropia along with our Ayurvedic treatment here. But because of the excessive vomiting, because myopia, I have already told that there are different etiological classification. So vomiting cannot increase or decrease the axial length. Vomiting cannot increase or decrease the curvature or index or position of the lens. Okay, so it is not the case. It is a generalized etiological factors for all the eye diseases. Is it clear? Is there any changes in EP diameter after Ayurvedic treatment? Yes, it's a good question. Is there any changes in AP diameter after Ayurvedic treatment? So, as far as there is need for these type of studies in Ayurveda, whether our Tarpan or our medicine are having some effect on AP diameter or ROC. Okay, so these type of study we should do. In my experience, there are no changes in AP diameter with Ayurvedic treatment. There may be the Ayurvedic treatment may result into basically increase in the health of the eye, increase in the tone of the muscles. So in my view, the hypermetropia is very well treated with the Ayurvedic treatment than the myopia, because in hypermetropia there is accommodative anomaly. Somewhere some in the pathology accommodative extra accommodative effort is there. So these type of studies should be conducted in our research institutes or PG institutes. Okay. Satya Dagar ji, how we can prevent myopia in children if both parents having myopia? So chances are 20% only, and basically if the myopia is of low means if the myopic quantity is less than 3 or 4 diopter, or it is not pathological myopia, so studies shows that it is not basically runs in the offspring. Okay, if both the parents are having pathological myopia, then there are chances for myopia in the offspring. Otherwise, if it is of minimal quantity or low myopia or 1 to 2 diopter myopia, and if both are there, so it should not, we cannot help anything, because genetic information will be there in the child. Okay. So is Darpan therapy is effective to change vision to 6/6 in refractive error condition? So refractive error, which type of refractive error we will see, we should specify the refractive error. Okay, so when we do Darpan, so somehow we are basically putting pressure on the cornea. Okay, with the blinking, with the weight of the ghee we used, and there is also change in the structure of the layers of the cornea, because the oil can pass through the corneal layer. So uh, uh, in hypermetropia, there is definitely a change with Darpan, and there the symptoms of the patient is definitely going to be improved with the Darpan therapy. Okay. Due to online, many of the kids are diagnosed myopic. When to place this type? Is it axial, curvature, refractive, and ha? So we have missed a basically topic that excessive accommodation. Excessive accommodation. What happened when there is excessive accommodation? There is a spasm of the ciliary muscles. Okay, spasm of the ciliary muscles will be there, and spasm of the ciliary muscles result into a permanent accommodated lens. Okay, ciliary muscles used to accommodate, and the lens is accommodate, or the property is getting through the ciliary muscles. If ciliary muscles get spasm, the curvature of the lens will permanently remain as it is, and it will result into myopia. Okay, so again we will go for some nourishing treatment modalities in Ayurveda, and it will result into basically relief from the spasm of the ciliary muscles. Okay, it is not axial, it is not curvature, it is accommodative. If the person has myopia, so how many chances that person has cataract in future? Myopia and cataract, not very relevant. There is not. It means cataract. Whatever the normal population have chances, the same chances is with the myopic patient. Okay. We stick to time limit. For any more queries, you can contact Dr. Manju. Okay. Sure. Okay. As for the verdict is there from Manjari ma'am that we have to close this session now, and I again thank you, Principal Sir, College of Ayurveda, Parul University, Manjari ma'am, TAS India, and all the beloved students who joined to attend this session, especially our friend from Argentina. She also joined in this session. I really thank you. Dr. Viraya also joined. I have seen Dr. Viraya, Dr. Ganga. Thank you for joining, and thank you everyone for patience listening.